Project 2025 in the NOAA slash NHC, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and the National Hurricane Center, and other things that are involved in the NOAA. I recently shared a meme or an image or something on Facebook that said that while we're seeing all this hurricane damage going on, just to let you know that the National Hurricane Center is going to be destroyed by Project 2025. And then Facebook comes around and they say, this is not true. Fact checkers have said that this is not true because Project 2025 doesn't specifically state in the document that they are going to eliminate specifically the National Hurricane Center. They don't specifically state that. But it's still a reasonable idea that one could, come with if you actually read the context of the wording in Project 2025. You will specifically see that the end result of this is going to be the destruction of all of the parts of the NOAA. Because that's what they do. It won't be anything like it is, and then, we'll be screwed. But the fact checker's like, oh, well, the words aren't exactly in there, so you can't say it. Yes, of course, we can infer it by what's in there. We can reach a logical conclusion based on this. It's like, for example, one of my friends on Facebook was nitpicking me and being unnecessarily pedantic about the whole thing too. I was like, Vice President Harris calls the tariff plan of Donald Trump the Trump national sales tax, or the Trump sales tax plan. So these fact checkers would probably come around like, well, Donald Trump didn't say that he really is going to impose a sales tax. Donald Trump said that he's imposing a tariff on the other countries. That's what he said. So we're rating this mostly false by Vice President Harris because he never said that he wants to implement a national sales tax. But you can infer from Donald Trump's plan on wanting to impose 200% tariffs on businesses that leave the country and everything else, yada, yada, yada. You can infer that, if those tariffs are assessed, who's going to pay those tariffs? It's not the businesses. The businesses, wherever possible, are going to pass those expenses on to the consumers. So it's no different than putting on a sales tax. You're just assessing the tax at a different point along the manufacturing chain or the sales chain or whatever, but you're still causing the consumers to pay more. So if it's easier in common parlance to be able to say it's basically just a sales tax, and it's fine saying it. It's unneeded pedantry to be like, oh, he didn't really say that, so she's wrong by saying a national sales tax because it's really not a sales tax, it's a tariff. But it has the same effect, so stop being so freaking pedantic and understand the point that's trying to be made. That's why sometimes fact checkers can be very ridiculous. As we come here to Project 2025 and the wording in Project 2025, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. First, break up the NOAA. What could go wrong, right? What could go wrong with breaking up the NOAA? You just have these little parts of the NOAA that work interdependently on each other. So if you remove this piece and that piece and whatever from the NOAA and you put it in different places, it's not going to work as well. Analogy I like to use with this one is like, I'm going to take apart your vehicle, your car. Well, then I'm not going to be able to use my engine because you're taking apart my vehicle. Well, I never said I was going to break your engine. I never said your engine would stop working. Right? I'm just saying that I'm going to take apart your vehicle. But if I take apart your vehicle, guess what? Your engine will no longer work. That's the same kind of concept here. If you break up the NOAA, the interdependent parts are either not going to work as well as they do. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts idea. You're going to wreck the entire thing. So the single biggest Department of Commerce agency outside of the decennial census years is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which houses the National Weather Service, National Marine Fisheries Service, and other components The NOAA garners $6.5 billion of the department's $12 billion annual operation budget and accounts for more than half of the department's personnel in non-decadal census years. The NOAA consists of 6 offices: National Weather Service, NWS, the National Oceanic Service, NOS, the Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, OAR, different than the band, the National Environmental Satellite Data and Information Service, NESDIS, sounds like Nintendo and Disney together, the National Marine Fisheries Service, and the Office of Marine and Aviation Operations and NOAA Corps. Why would you want to split the Office of the Marine and Aviation Operations and NOAA Corps? Why would you want to split that away from the National Hurricane Center when it's those planes that go in and look at, the eye wall of hurricanes to see what's the strength, what's the wind speed at the eye wall, to get accurate measurements of these hurricanes so that we can better predict what's going to go on when they make landfall. And they want to split this up now? Again, this is stupid. So taking away removing the part that helps the National Weather Center, which will look at hurricanes, taking that part away from, the airplanes that help it determine how strong hurricanes are, means the National Weather Service is going to be not as good as it was before. Together, these form a colossal operation that has become one of the main drivers of climate change alarm industry, and as such, harmful to future U.S. prosperity, because that's their main goal here. They don't care about people's lives, even though they're pro-life. They don't care that having a robust and working National Weather Service is going to help people, it's going to help save lives. They don't care about that. They want to make sure that businesses don't have to deal with climate change. Right? That's the point. This industry's mission emphasis on prediction and management seems designed around the fatal conceit of planning for the unplannable. But by having the National Weather Service and having airplanes that can go into hurricanes and having all the other parts of the NOAA that are interdependent on each other, you then are able to, help predict when hurricanes are going to happen, help see what their tracking is going to be, help see how strong it is and how fast it's growing, see how fast it's moving, all the things that one might need to determine whether or not they need to get the hell out of Dodge if a hurricane is coming their way. That is not to say the NOAA is useless, but its current organization corrupts its useful functions. No, that's stupid. It should be broken up and downsized because, according to them, smaller is better. But I guess that's what they tell their wives every night too, right? NOAA boasts that it is a provider of environmental information services, a provider of environmental stewardship services, a leader in applied scientific research. Each of these functions could be provided commercially at lower cost and higher quality. There's no evidence for that. Commercially means you're going to try and get profit, and profit is another form of waste, especially when you're dealing with things of a scientific nature that may very well, people rely on to help have their lives be saved, because more people would die from major storms if they didn't have the information that they currently have. Focus the National Weather Service on commercial operations. Each day, Americans rely on weather forecasts and warnings provided by local radio stations and colleges that are produced not by the NWS but by private companies such as AccuWeather. Studies have found that these forecasts and warnings provided by private companies are more reliable than those provided by the NWS. I don't believe you. The NWS provides data the private companies use and should focus its data gathering services because private companies rely on this data. The NWS should fully commercialize its forecasting operations. Why? So if somebody can't afford to pay for it, they're not going to get the information that they need? That's BS. NOAA does not currently utilize commercial partnerships as some other agencies do. Commercialization of weather technology should be prioritized to ensure that taxpayer dollars are invested in the most cost-efficient technologies for high-quality research and weather data. Investing in different sizes of commercial partners will increase competition while ensuring that the government solutions provided each contract is personalized to the needs of NOAA's weather programs. Again, such high pie in the sky type ideas that basically almost sound like the same sort of BS logic that justifies trickle-down economics. The NWS would be a candidate to be a performance-based organization to better enforce organizational focus. Right, because that's always good. Someone asks, Easy E, let me guess, Elon will be involved too. Maybe. We'll get to that in a second. Review the work of the National Hurricane Center and the National Environmental Satellite Service. The National Hurricane Center and National Environmental Satellite Service data centers provide important public safety and business functions as well as academic functions, are used by forecasting agencies and scientists internationally. Data continuity is an important issue in climate science. Data collected by the department should be presented neutrally without adjustments intended to support any one side of the climate debate. Here's their problem with this. So if you have facts that show climate science is real, climate change is real, they don't want you to say that. They want you to say, here are the facts, and then reach your own conclusions, man. But in reality, you know, by leaving it open, you're actually causing more harm. Instead of allowing the science to say, we have looked at this information, and from this information we've determined that climate change is real, and therefore you listen to the scientists. Oh, shocked, I know. Transfer NOS survey functions to the U.S. Coast Guard and the U.S. Geological Survey. Survey operations have historically accounted for almost half of the NOS budget. These functions could be transferred to the Coast Guard and Geological Survey to increase efficiency. Why? Why would moving it to the Coast Guard increase any efficiency whatsoever? They've not explained why this would happen. They're just saying it will happen, and people believe it. Just like Lucy and the football again. Streamline the NMFS. Overlap exists between the National Marine Fisheries Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Overly simplified, the NMFS handles saltwater species while Fish and Wildlife focuses on freshwater. The goals of these two agencies should be streamlined, i.e. they don't want to worry about the environmental effects of corporations on the environment when it comes to our wildlife and fisheries, and therefore want to make it easier for our corporations to pollute the waters and not have to worry about the effect that it has on those polluted waters, on the fishermen that work those waters, etc., etc., etc. Harmonize the Magnuson-Stevens Act with the National Marine Sanctuaries Act under the auspices of NOS. Marine sanctuaries, including no fishing zones, are being established countrywide, often conflicting with the goals of the Magnuson-Stevens Act fisheries management authorities of NOAA fisheries, regional fishery management in relevant states. So, yeah, so they don't like the no fishing zones probably and want you to be able to fish wherever you want, but if you overfish an area, you get rid of the fish. Withdraw the 3030 Executive Order and Associated America Beautiful Initiative. We don't want America to be beautiful. America is beautiful when Donald Trump is president, right? Modify regulations implementing Marine Mammal Protection Act. Allow a NEPA exemption for fisheries actions. All requirements for robust analysis of biological, economic, blah, 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 blah. NEPA overlays these requirements with onerous, redundant, and time-consuming process requirements which routinely cause unnecessary delays in the promulgation of timely fisheries management actions, i.e., they want to be able to quickly say, yeah, sure, you can fish here, or allow the people who they want to fish there. Downsize the Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research. OAR provides theoretical science as opposed to applied science, i.e., they don't like theoretical science. They don't want people trying to understand why things are happening, because if people actually determine why the things are happening, i.e., if they can figure out the theory behind what's going on and learn more about what's happening, then you might be able to have better climate science. But they don't want that. Any advancement in the theoretical understandings of how climate works means that, you know, businesses are going to be less likely to pollute or what have you. So, no. And then, of course, you know, so when you're working with the OAR, the Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, that clearly has connections to, like, the fish in the oceans. So that's why you want to keep all of that stuff intertwined, because they work together. And by separating, you make the whole, the parts of the whole less powerful than if they're all combined into Voltron. Yeah, is this manga's idea of draining the swamp? Well, manga's idea of draining the swamp, Trucker John, was always replacing it with an even swampier swamp. Break off the Office of Marine and Aviation Operations and reassign its assets to other agencies. The Office of Marine and Aviation Operations, which provides the ships and planes used by NOAA agencies, should be broken up, its assets reassigned to General Services Administration or other agencies. So you're going to add more steps that are required for the people dealing with stuff like, you know, flying their airplanes into hurricanes to do scientific measurements to help figure out how strong the hurricane is, where it's going, yada, yada, yada. You're going to take that away from that, and you're going to put it with somewhere else, and now they have to jump through additional hoops to try and get the needed aircraft in the right position. Stupid. Use small innovation prizes and competitions to encourage high-quality research. Why does it have to be small? Again, because they don't want large ideas, because large ideas that help show that climate change and climate science is real harm the ability of their rich people, the rich donors, the people that support the Heritage Foundation. It denies them the ability to actually do the business that they want to do, which involves, killing the environment. So that's what they want to do. Yeah, Diane Russell, MAGA is the deep state. Every accusation is a confession. Exactly, Diane. 21st Century Suffragettes, check it out. To get the link to it, go to liberaldan.com, click Friends of the Show. The link is there. Ensure appointees agree with administration aims. Scientific agencies like NOAA are vulnerable to obstructionism if an administration aims as political appointees are not wholly in sync with the administration policy. Particular attention must be paid to appointments in this area. So basically, what they're worried about is they want to make sure that everybody who works for the NOAA is going to be goose-stepping right behind Donald Trump if Donald Trump becomes president. Right? That's what they want. They don't want somebody in these offices to be able to say, "Oh, this is the science. It doesn't matter what you feel, Mr. Trump. This is the science of how things work. And as such, we're going to present it to you." Because Donny Boy doesn't like when people contradict him. So they want to make sure that the president is surrounded by a bunch of yes people who are going to say, yes, sir, and use sir a lot because he likes when people say sir, apparently. And they're just going to follow in lockstep behind what he wants to do, which is going to be what Project 2025 wants to do, because Project 2025 and Agenda 47, as we've already seen, and we'll show again later in the show, are the same thing. Elevate the Office of Space Commerce. The Office of Space Commerce is the executive branch advocate on behalf of U.S. commercial space industry. The office should be a vehicle for the new administration to set robust and unified whole-of-government commercial space policy that cements U.S. leadership in one of the most crucial areas of the future. The future! The office's current mission has been lost, owing its position within NESDIS, which sees no role for itself in advancing the industry, blah, 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 blah. There presently exists no modified U.S. government policy on commercial space operations within the FCC, largely responsible for establishing space policy by default through its regulation of radio spectrum licenses. Now that routine space operations are commercially viable, it is critical that a new administration establish reasonable government policies and ensure U.S. will continue to be the flag of choice for commercial space activities. Basically, yeah, as someone said, as I think it was Eazy-E that said, they want to involve Elon Musk, I'm sure, at some point. And of course, someone could come around and be like, well, it doesn't mention Elon Musk in the Project 2025 document in this section, so how can you say that? Because I can infer it because of the closeness between Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the people involved in Project 2025. So we can do a lot of inferences when we read the documents and read between the lines. And that's what sometimes fact checkers refuse to do. They won't read between the lines. They want to be overly pedantic and say, well, it only said this, and we can't make any other inferences unless it's based on what they say. But even if you read what they say, there's plenty of inferences that can logically be made. And to try and fact check that and try and tell people that they're spreading false information when in reality all they're doing is making an inference based off of what they read, that's only harmful to this country, which is why we need to share things like this with other people, let them know, yeah, sure, it doesn't say that Donald Trump or Project 2025 is going to kill the National Hurricane Center. It doesn't say that specifically. But if you disassemble the NOAA and take away the parts that the National Hurricane Center needs to determine whether or not a storm's coming, how strong a storm's going to be, make it harder for them to do their job, you downsize it, you privatize it, you're basically killing it. You eliminate all the theoretical science to help you understand better why storms happen and why they're getting stronger and more harsh and more frequent. Yeah, you're going to kill the National Hurricane Center by dismantling the NOAA. And that's the point. But for some reason, the fact checkers want to be like, oh, you're wrong. No, we're right. And it's irresponsible of these so-called fact checkers to come in and try and say that we're wrong because we're inferring things that are clearly inferable from the document here. Anyway, what do you think? Do you agree, disagree? Leave your comments below. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and have a good day.